Hello, my name is Teresa sister. We're continuing with Saturnastra. This is chapter 29. The great prince was not dining alone, and his entire court was assembled with him. And they were observing the prince blow out smokes, and some were sipping non-existent tea from their cups, and others were pretending to drink soup. And from time to time a great noble would exchange a meaningful look with his neighbors. And the great were prone to mass insanity, for lack of a better word, and when one had a stupid idea, it would spread through the entire colony like a disease. And using his own voice, the great prince said in a soft whisper, "Welcome, have a seat at the table." And he and Karina sat on their own 20 seat, and they were the closest seats to the great prince in order to hear his soft whispery voice. The great prince smiled, and he removed his crown, and then he gave a slight nod and put the crown back on, and then he said to Ahi, "You honor me with your presence, Ahi." Ahi said, repeated, "You honor me with your presence." The great prince narrowed his eyes, and he took a whiff from his pipe, as smoke flew out of his nostrils, and one of the nobles then said without moving his mouth with telepathy, "I think he wants to eat our plates." "Ah, forgive where my manners," chuckled the great prince, "and you may eat as much as you like." He gave him a sideways look, and a noble nearest he imitated the look, and then took the silverware and started eating. Took the silverware and he started eating it. The others started passing the silverware to his plate, and while this went on, Karina said to the great prince, "And how is his property coming along? We have generated quite a varied number of blueprints, and my designer has a catalog already prepared," answered the great prince. "About that, the girl wants to play housewife," said Karina, resting her head on her left hand. "He's going to draw his feet, I suspect," chuckled the great prince. "How is your calligraphy?" asked Karina. The great prince showed his sleeve to Karina, and then he saw the great prince decorate gibberish, and he remarked, how awful." The great prince simply smiled, and when he finished his dinner, the great prince rose from his seat, and the nobles did the same as well, and without saying a word to one another, the nobles quietly vacated the premises. The great prince walked in the direction of the door beneath the seascape, and Karina and Ahina followed behind, and the curtain conveniently parted for the trio to pass, and the portal beneath the painting to open. And this led to the great prince's private court chambers, and before entering within, the great prince removed his shoes. Karina and Ahid did the same, and the interior was wide and expansive, and there were 5 rooms at the end of the main square building, and at the center there was a golden fountain. The fountain had an arabesque design, and the floor around it had a small checkerboard pattern with white tile, and the roof of the interior patio was hollowed out, allowing the moonlight to enter. And this area was surrounded the patio had Doric columns, and the great prince guided his gaze to his study, which lay behind a black bronze door, and its pretty sculpture showed many tortured souls, and at the lintel of the door the thinker was looking down at those who entered, and at the top of the door there were 3 depressed figures pointing down. And he lingered a moment looking at the 3 figures, and he was about to push the door open when the great prince took his arm, and then he shook his head, and then he pointed at the real entrance. And Karina commented, "Your sense of humor never ceases to amaze me." Like, that wasn't like a real door, it was like a decorated sculpture door. It wasn't meant to be open. "A gift from your brother," said the great prince, smiling thinly, and the real door was camouflaged into the wall decoration. He pulled the handle of a smaller door, the size of a normal human being open, and the only light inside the study came from a candle, and a little elfin girl was sitting at the table scribbling notes, and she wore a simple red dress with golden pattern, and she looked up disdainfully from her work, and then went back to her scribbling. And the great prince frowned and said there was no need to write a specific form for he, and you could have easily used a Saurian form. "Oh," said the girl, yawning, "I did not think of that, and go to bed, it's past your bedtime," snapped the great prince. The girl yawned and rose from her seat, and she took the candle with her and left the entire room bathed in darkness. He looked around, scanning his surroundings, and we heard a noise of someone tripping over a couch, and suddenly the room was bathed under the hue of floating north light, and the great prince had ordered his observers to start emitting light, and under the darkness they seemed like floating blue flames. And the resonating light was centered on the table, and the great prince was looming over the documents that the elf girl had written, and he was wearing neither a veil nor crown this time, and strands of huge silver white hair fell over his face, and the rest was pulled back in a braid that went down his waist. And he went to stand beside the great prince and said, "You're not supposed to use them like that." "It's fine, nobody's here to see them," said the great prince, not looking at him. Even I know the rules of the game, said he, frowning. That is your game, not mine, snapped the Great Prince. And he looked at the observers who started glowing, and the Great Prince fine and said, fine, I'll use the other light. The observer started emitting a gentle white light, and this light illuminated the entire room easier, and the Great Prince remarked, what a bother. The Great Prince handed he the papers for him to read, and he looked through the papers carefully, and Karina went to stand beside her brother to look at the papers over his shoulder. And we tried to get a closer look at them, however the airspace was getting too crowded, and Karina said, this is good signing, honey. And he took the pickup plume offered by the Great Prince, and he sighed whenever there was an X on the paper. And after the papers were signed, the group walked out of the study shrouded in darkness, and he asked, why is the room always so dark? Candela gives me a headache, and one of my girls is going to walk you outside, and it's nothing more than a formality, and go and leave me in peace. I grow bored of your presence, or stay. I can just easily pretend that you folks are not here, said the Great Prince, walking towards the golden door. And Karina narrowed her eyes lower for a moment, and she seemed not to be looking at anything specific, and her concentration was broken by the approaching footsteps. He saw a figure clad in white robes, and the figure lowered her hood to show her elven face. And she looked just like the other girl that they had met, and unlike all of the elven girls he had ever seen, this one had green eyes and red hair. He smiled at her and waved her hand in salutation. If it wasn't for the years, one could easily confuse her for a 14-year-old human girl. And she ran towards her and shook his hand, and then she said, I know it's kind of late, but the stars are so pretty, and I wanted to meet the infamous Ahi. And she shook Karina's hand as well, and then said, is that seem really your brother? You don't look anything alike. And Karina patted the girl's head and said, the warranty expired. Ah, I see, she said, rubbing her chin, as she looked at her from head to toe. The same thing happened to my sword, and I left it out in the ring for like a week, and then it got all red, and now I can cut butter. And Karina interrupted the girl by saying, we must be on our way, and we can talk while you got us out of the palace. I don't know. I live here on my knife, and even I still get lost, said the girl, pouting. It's fine, we will just retrace our steps, said Karina, walking ahead. By the way, my name is Olivia, and she replied as she walked beside Karina. I already knew that, said he, looking at Olivia's red curly hair. I know, but you're doing the movie thing, she said, looking in our direction, and Karina put her hand to her mouth and said, oh my, I'm surprised you can actually see them. I don't know how, but it's almost like a sixth sense. And my dad calls it inspiration, which is my way of saying that I'm good at guessing. And she continued, so like, does he talk now, or is he just faking it, or was he faking not understanding human speech? He growled in response in order to keep her in confusion. I don't really get why he's making such a big fuss about it, and he's got plenty of friends back home and people who respect and admire him. And there's no point in fretting about these weaklings and what they think it's not going to matter at the end of the game. Then again, if someone said anything about my hair or insulting my papa, I will cut that soft's head clean off and fill it with cotton and put it on a spike and just serene. I will not let anyone disrespect me, said Olivia. These people are vampires. The people who disrespect you are not usually vampires, Olivia said, Karina sternly. And he patted his lips, but he said nothing, and his eyes went glassy as he continued to walk beside his sister. And Karina placed her hand to her mouth and yawned, and this yawn was echoed by Olivia, and afterwards she said, I just remember you wanted to know about the crops. How many have we lost? Asked Karina, giving another brief review of the palace decoration. About 400 kilos. And we had to make do with the surplus from the other plantation, said Olivia sadly. So many units lost, all because of one man, said Karina solemnly. This variable was added to the equation, and the next harvest will provide a higher yield, and within it all we may turn this loss into a gain, said Olivia, smiling. Worst comes to worst, we can slash and burn the land and start from scratch. Oberon would certainly like that, wouldn't he, said Karina, chuckling. And then he talked in his sister's sleep, and then I don't get what you're talking about. It means that we have to start from scratch, said Olivia, tracing a line over her neck with her tongue. Oh, I still don't get it. And can we put bad plants in time out and try out a new fertilizer? It seems like such a waste. It's back to wasteful like that, commented he, looking at his feet. Is he really not getting it, or is he just faking it, asked Olivia sarcastically. Does it really matter, answered Karina. I guess not for our purposes. I suppose it was wise to make a hint a little dim-witted, commented Olivia, looking at his head as if it was hollowed. He was not made stupid, answered Karina. It was unusual to see her showing a strong display of emotion. And she added, the details on our creation are classified, and you know not of what you speak. And Olivia curled her lips and stayed quiet until he and Karina left the palace, and Karina then said, it was foolish of me to let her mindless shadow distract me. And this girl is smarter than she looks, and the Grey are curious about our little game, and they want to play, but my Duke won't let them. A great shadow walking around the corner asked, and why can't we play? And why don't you ask my brother? I said, Karina, smiling. It's from lack of asking him. We want in, and he won't let us, whined the great shout. And like the great prince, this one had silver hair and conspicuous in his own voice. My Duke is very meticulous with the rules of our game, and you have your mission, and we have ours, said Karina, looking at the show. And a different great kid asked, it's not the same. Karina chuckled, and he and the great show gave a sideways look. Alina simply shrugged her shoulder and continued along the way, and the great shout wanted to walk away, and Azaria went to stand by his side and stood silent for a moment. And the great shout nodded and stepped twice on the floor with his right leg, and Karina then said aloud, you can play as long as you stay within the agreed parameters, and it's not as if Ardo has forbidden you from engaging with our crop. I still don't get it, said the great shout. And an image feed sent by the great observer gave us a look into the great shout, laughing, and he remarked, neither in this one nor the next one is there happiness for one who doubts himself. Like feeding milk to a bite, perceived Karina fading away into the crossroad, and when she was gone, he continued alone in the darkness. And strange black eyes watched and go, but none seemed too eager to see him leave. And he eventually made his way to the entrance of the city, and the gates were still lower for him, and he stopped for a moment to listen to the Saurian guards arguing. And after a few seconds, he hurried his pace, and by the time most of the travelers had gone to sleep, he went to find the tent of his party, and he smiled when he saw 7 great men and 3 children around the tent. And he went to stand beside them, and one of them said, lack of sleep was making her paranoid, and a child commented, it's like she's bent on being miserable. And a middle-aged man dressed in grey robes made a sign to the great group, and he said in a hoarse voice, shouldn't let the poor elf sleep alone in peace. And the grey group left the tent alone, and one of the children stopped and stared at him, and he took hold of one of his curls and asked, aren't you hot with all that hair? Maybe, said he, yawning, and the grey child took a deep breath and said nothing, and his face almost seemed sad based on his downcast eye. And he walked to the last tent, and he went inside, and he saw Eleanor sleeping in a little cot. And the cot bed was only big enough for one person, and he sat down on the floor beside her, watching her sleep, and a pair of large black eyes was also watching her. Alright, so then that's the end of that chapter.